All right. Well, good afternoon. My name is Joe Smizer. I'm a senior Google Workspace engineer with Trifera. I'm thrilled to have you join us this afternoon. So this is going to be the Tech or Google Workspace Admin breakout track for the DEC, the Domains Techy is Heck holiday event hosted by Trifera. I'm thrilled that you joined us. As we get started today, I want to get started just a little bit about me. So I have worked inside Google Workspace for the last, 15 years, maybe more than that at this point, including 10 years as a Google Workspace administrator for a school district of about 11 or 12,000 students. I mentioned that just to mention that I have been in your shoes. I've seen a lot of the same frustrations and joys and challenges that come along with working in a K-12 environment. I also mentioned just about everybody on our team here at Trifera, particularly in our Google Services division here. We have spent time in your shoes. Just about everybody has either spent time in the classroom or in school district IT staffing. And so again, we have that background, that heart for education, and we're here to help however we can. So today, over the next, let's see, 55 minutes or so, we're going to take a deep dive into all things Gemini when it comes to Google Workspace Administrator. So how can we use it to improve security? How can we use it to improve collaboration? What settings should we be aware of? What can we do with it? Hopefully we can spend this time sharing ideas. If you have an idea, or if you have a question, if you have a comment, whatever that is, drop it in the chat. We would love to hear from you during this time because I'd love for this to be collaborative instead of just me yelling at you for the next 55 minutes. So again, if you have a question, if you have a comment, an idea, whatever it is, drop it in the chat and we'll do the best we can to answer it. And so again, we'll take a look at what is Gemini. Maybe you are brand new to Google Workspace for Education and Gemini. We'll do a brief introduction to what that is, as well as the features included inside of it. From there, we'll also discuss some new features around Gemini, as well as just around cybersecurity and Google Workspace administration. So if you have a moment, we'll go through that and we'll take a look at those new features. And then we'll see how Gemini and privacy go together. And then we'll wrap up with some demonstrations on how we can use Gemini and Google AI Pro to really improve collaboration, productivity, efficiency, security, you name it, how we can use Gemini to do that in our organization. And so again, just as a quick reminder, quick piece of housekeeping, this session is being recorded. And so we'll make sure we get the recording shared with you. Additionally, the slide deck and some other resources are included in the agenda for our time together today. So I'm going to put the link back in the chat just so you have it. And so again, from there, you'll be able to find links for our next session. So if you want to jump to Anna's session at 1 o'clock, as she takes a look at AI that connects and taking a look at GEMS and Notebook LM and Gemini in the classroom, you can do that. Or you can just stay in this same space. We'll take a quick break and then we'll come back and talk about cybersecurity, how we can defend our domain and hopefully have a quiet and safe 2026. All right. So with that out of the way, let's dive in. Again, our objectives today, we want to hopefully understand how Gemini's functionalities can benefit us as Google Workspace administrators. We'll identify some tasks for productivity enhancement, explore Gemini's role in cybersecurity, learn some practical and effective prompting techniques, and then discuss best practices for responsible AI use. But before we do that, again, just as a reminder, you can see our team from Google Services here at Trifera on your screen. Like I mentioned, 55 years of combined experience in educational technology. If you'd like to learn more about how we can serve you, your school district, your domain when it comes to Google Workspace, there's a link in this slide deck. And so if you want to learn more about Gemini licenses or trainings or Google Workspace for Education Plus, whatever that is, you can find that on the screen here with the purple button there, Explore Google Technical Services there. And just to highlight what we do and what we offer here at Trifera, again, our technical services are here to support you, whatever that looks like, around Google Workspace for Education. So we offer premium and fully managed support options, as well as health and security audits. That's one that I would really, really encourage you to consider because we go in and we take a look at everything inside of your domain, taking a look for productivity enhancements. Are you getting the most out of your licenses? Are you as secure as you can be? Are your devices set up correctly? Everything goes into that, and we compile like a 100-page report so that we can really go in depth with the security in your domain there. Data migrations, technical training, and more. All right, So with that, let's dive in. Let's talk about Gemini for Google admins. Janet, we'll see you in a moment. We're going to have a fire drill. So is it being recorded? Yes, we will make sure that this is being recorded. We'll get that shared with you. The recording may not get posted to that handout until like later today or tomorrow, just because it's going to take about 2 hours for that recording to process. Yes, it is being recorded. Awesome. All right, so let's dive in. Let's get going. And I'll get started with this question. So using the chat, how is your school using AI? How is your school using AI? I'll give you a few moments to drop a response into the chat. Oh, Julie also has a fire drill. It's a fire drill day for everybody. All right, and so again, the question is, how is your school using AI? Kelly mentions Magic School, Janet mentions Magic School, student research papers, staff, scale student insights, Magic School and Brisk. Awesome. Staff use only, looking into Magic School. Students are not teachers, are using it as needed. Awesome. Lots and lots of responses. That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you for participating. All right, so as we keep going, we can kind of see our responses are kind of across the board. A lot of people looking at Magic School. A lot of people are mentioning that, you know, staff have access, but students don't. And so what's this look like? As we think about it, though, I want to pose one more question to you, even though we still have some great responses coming into the chat. Going to look into Magic School, haven't heard of it. Certain specific vetted tools are available. Yeah, and this is really pretty common from what we see as we talk to schools across the country. We see a wide array of where schools are at and how AI is being adopted from school to school. And so totally representative in our chat here as well. All right, so one other question to help frame our time together today. How are you using AI? So we've had you respond to how your school uses AI. How do you use AI? How do you use AI as a Google Workspace administrator, as a technology professional, as an ed tech professional? How are you using AI? Jan mentions PD prep. Yeah, that's a great idea. Sometimes for idea generation and problem solving. Searching for solutions to problems that stump me. That's a big one. Jacob also mentions PD prep, tier 1 help desk support. Yeah. Make me sound nicer in emails. Yeah, I like that as well. Support research, making non-tech staff understand me. Yeah, it's a great one. Great use. Yeah. Idea cleanup, summarizing, flyer generation, solutions for specific student populations, researching and troubleshooting. Yeah, lots of great responses. All right, we'll give you another moment to respond. I hate to cut off the chat just because we've had some really good responses here. Differentiation and creation of new materials like video overviews using Notebook LM after uploading unit materials. Yeah. Back and forth conversations throughout the day. Yeah, just an ongoing stream of conversations with Gemini. Awesome. Cool. Troubleshooting, but not always correct. Getting better. Yeah. I've definitely noticed that Gemini, I use Gemini. I know there are other AI tools out there, but I've noticed Gemini in particular has gotten a lot better with fewer and fewer random things getting thrown into the responses, particularly with videos. Videos are getting better too, but those aren't perfect either. Students do have access to paid Canva and are using it. Gemini can be pretty generic. I've used it for troubleshooting. Yeah, awesome. All right, so as we get started today, I want to briefly just kind of touch on Gemini in the event that you haven't seen Gemini before. My assumption, though, is that just about everybody has seen it or they're familiar with it, so I'm going to breeze through this really fast. But again, before we get into Gemini specifics, I want to touch on a couple things with cybersecurity, because again, I think we can use Gemini and we can leverage AI to help us as we counter some of these trends targeting us. So why are K-12 schools continuing to be a target? As we think through this, why are we a target? Again, what we see more often than not, schools remain a top target for ransomware due to sensitive data. That could be student records, IEPs, health data, payroll data, right? The list of data and types of data that these attackers would want to target is really long, and we don't always do a great job of protecting it. Secondly, vendor vulnerabilities. So breaches often originate from third-party edtech apps, and this is something that's really pretty scary, because we can do the best we can as a Google Workspace administrator or as a edtech professional, but we're still reliant on some of those third-party tools out there. And so thinking back to like the SolarWinds breach, goodness, 4 years, 5 years ago now, just really illustrated the scale at which some of these third-party vulnerabilities can affect people, because that vulnerability ended up being distributed through the source code to all the clients, including, you know, people at the State Department or the CIA or the Defense Department. And it's just a really, really long list of people who are affected by that breach. As we keep looking at trends here, so AI enhanced phishing. Attackers are using AI to write perfect English, making it harder to spot. And so in the past, it used to be relatively easy to identify phishing emails as they came in, right? Because they had broken English, fragmented sentences, the grammar, the spelling, everything just felt off. And now these attackers are using AI to write more convincing emails that they send our way. And so if they're using AI to attack us, how can we use AI to counter that, right? So if they're using these tools, how do we use the same tools to counter these threats? And what we run into is the challenge here with limited staff and really high complexity. We see a need for force multipliers, and that's where AI comes in. All right, so one more question for you, and I'll pose this to you in the chat again. So what was the most difficult security incident that you faced in 2025? Most difficult security incident that you faced in 2025? While you type in your response, a few more responses from previous questions. Kelly mentions Notebook LM. Love Notebook LM for sure. We'll touch on that just in passing today, but some really, really cool things available with Notebook LM. KJ mentions the PowerSchool breach. Yeah, people clicking on links. Yep, firewall, breach, phishing. Awesome, thank you for responding here. People. I love that response, because really at the end of the day, we are as secure as our weakest link. And sadly, more often than not, our weakest link are some of our staff members, right? The same ones who ignore every single email we send them warning them are the same people who click every single phishing email. So yeah, staff for sure. So yeah, we'll take a look at how we can use AI to help us as we try to train and educate staff here. Phishing, we'll see how we can use AI just in phishing response, evaluating phishing messages. Awesome. Let's see, Anthony mentions there's a state employee that got compromised and sent out phishing emails. Spotify link going around, luckily most of our staff knew not to. Phishing attempts, yeah, lots of really good responses. Again, I can't thank you all enough for just how well you all are participating. I think that's awesome, so thank you so much. All right, so we keep going here. So we understand that we are a target, and we understand that we've been a target historically. As we keep thinking about that, sorry, my mouse gets a little click happy. As we keep thinking about that, we see a new threat, some new threat vectors trying to target K-12 schools. And so one of those is just more sophisticated phishing, right? So it's no longer just the Prince of Nigeria scams, or the scam, hey, can you go buy me a gift card and don't tell anybody, right? We're seeing some really elaborate threats here when it comes to AI generated messages, because now these attackers can use AI to scan our domains looking for these vulnerabilities. They can use AI to look through different staff directories to find the right people to target or the right people to reference in emails. And so we see a new sophistication in these phishing attacks. We've also seen account takeover, so students sharing passwords or reusing credentials on gaming sites or other sites, and then shadow IT, so teachers signing in to unvetted AI tools using sign in with Google. And so that third-party creep and reach just keeps growing and growing there. All right. As we keep going, I want to briefly introduce you to generative AI in education. Just 3 or 4 quick slides about Gemini, and then we'll dive into how we can use Gemini to support our needs. So as a quick reminder, so generative AI is the next big shift in technology. And we've seen this shift all the way along the way as we start thinking back, right? Where we have personal computers, the internet, mobile devices, artificial intelligence just fits right in there. And I think it's helpful to remember that because we encountered the same sort of pushback, maybe not to this degree, but a lot of the same pushback from staff as we rolled out computers and internet access and mobile devices and one-to-one devices. Every step of the way, it's just important to remember that this is just a new tool to help us in the classroom. This is a new tool to help us learn, a new tool to help us teach. And so I think it's important to understand that, yes, there are some really exciting new things that generative AI can do. Sometimes that's even scary what it can do, but at the same time, it's just another shift, another thing that we have to get ready for inside of our schools. And so what is generative AI? Generative AI is used to create new content. So it could be text, images, music, code, all with a simple prompt. We'll dive into how we can craft some of these prompts here in a little bit. But with generative AI, it can enable a new era of working, teaching, learning, as we've all seen, right? As we've seen students take this and run with it. They've kind of been one of our examples to look to because they have been really good at being more productive with generative AI. We just need to put in the proper guardrails to make that work. And so again, just using this for problem solving, using this to help with collaboration, productivity, and more. And so this is a slide that Google put together. I think it's really, really helpful to think through this, right? So imagine a world where there is a TA or a teaching assistant for every single educator. Imagine a world where there is a tutor for every single learner, and a world where there is an assistant for every educational leader. And so to that end, that's kind of where Gemini jumps in, and we'll touch on this real fast. And so with Gemini, Gemini looks to transform education with the help of generative AI here to help us save time, make learning more personable, inspire creativity, learn confidently, kind of like what Anna mentioned briefly at the end of our breakout, or at the end of our keynote session. The learning tools built into Notebook-LM as well as Gemini can help students not just generate content, but actually really understand the content in front of them. As we keep going, again, the idea here is to empower our educational community with secure, no-cost generative AI tools. We're going to touch on 2 or 3 of them here with Gemini for Education and Notebook-LM. We're not going to touch on Gemini in the classroom. That's something that Anna's going to touch on during her session. So if you want to find information about that, reference her slide deck, reference the recording when that's available. But we're going to look at Gemini, we're going to look at Notebook-LM, and then we'll briefly also look at a couple of new tools that Google released in the last month with Google Workspace Studio and Google AI Studio. And we'll look at both of those as well. And so again, going back to that discussion, or that slide I put up a couple slides ago, imagining a world where every teaching assistant is available for every educator. I know this is a huge dream, right? As we think about funding for TAs and paras and everything else, not to mention just funding for educators and everything in K-12 education, it's tough. But with Gemini, we can use this to help plan lessons faster, differentiate course material for every student, and create assessments and practice materials. As we keep thinking through this, a tutor for every learner. And again, this is where I think it's really, really exciting. You can see an example in the screenshot here. But with Gemini, we can deepen our understanding and get on-demand supports, providing explanations of challenging concepts and step-by-step guidance as well, preparing for exams, getting feedback for writing, and preparing for college, career, and life. And then lastly, an assistant for every educational leader. So how do we save time with communications? How do we streamline administrative tasks like long document creation, analyzing data, creating templates, enhancing research, and more? All right, so if you do not have access to a premium edition of Google AI Pro for Education, I have created some demo accounts for you to use. You can access these by going to gemini.google.com and then signing in. There are 50 different ones. I recognize there are more than 50 people in the chat, so you might have to double up or use a couple different people using the same one. But these accounts are numbered deck the domain 1 through deck the domain 50. So you could type in, deck the domain 19 or deck the domain 25, whatever that is. You can use that, and I'll just put this in the chat as well. Kitchen mentions Gemini Pro licenses are so expensive, especially where you have to purchase a minimum number of licenses. The schools are using Pro now. How are schools affording budgeting for Gemini Pro? I think a couple things with that, and I'll let other people in the audience comment on how they are, deploying this, how they are licensing this, and things like that. A lot of the features we'll talk about today only require 1 license, and so you can buy individual Google AI Pro for Education licenses. And so if you just have 1, for example, you can use that to train Gemini to look for, say, IEPs in your student data. Lots of cool things we can do with that. All right, and so again, I'm just going to encourage you to remember that this is, I tell you what, I'll share this as well. And so this is out there. This is slide 26 in the slide deck if you want to reference the accounts here. But again, I just wanted to make sure that you were available, or these were available to you, and you can use these to try out some of the sample commands I'm going to put out there. Additionally, I want to highlight these are available these demos run for the next 18 hours. So Google Workspace for Education does a good job of providing demos, like Google Workspace for Education Plus. I think you get like a 60-day, 90-day trial. Just because of the computing power that's required by Gemini, our demo accounts in this case only last for about 18 hours. So make sure you try them out today. If you want to learn more, just message me and we can set you up with another 12-hour demo. But let's dive in, let's get started here. As we get started, again, we'll get started taking a look at four core tools. Four core tools inside of AI for Google Workspace for Education. I want to briefly highlight a few of these. We've got Gemini, Notebook LM, and Google Workspace Studio. I'm going to share my screen real fast, and we can just go through there. And I'll get started with Google Workspace Studio. And so let me share my screen, and I'll need to sign in. So real fast, let me sign into this. Sorry, give me 1 second. We'll get started with Google Workspace Studio. I'll put a link out there as well. And of course, it's running into an issue where it is not letting me sign in, which is super, super helpful. Let me try one more demo account, and then we'll roll from there. I'm going to put this in the chat so y'all can see it, and I'll share my tab here. But again, with Google Workspace Studio, this is the feature that is rolling out right now, which is kind of why we're running into this issue. If your school is set to the rapid release setting inside of the admin console, you should have access to it right now. If your school does not, like it's just set to the normal standard release schedule, you'll gain access to this, I believe, by the first week in January. But again, with Google Workspace Studio, we can use the Studio to create some integrations here and some bots here. And so, for example, I want this to run to help me prepare for a meeting. It can reference all my different meetings coming up, emails coming up, drive resources and docs. But again, just scrolling through, preparing for a meeting, translating action items, auto label priority emails. We could also have it send us a summary. So maybe we have a security inbox and it receives all of our different alerts. It's just a catch-all for everything security in our domain. We could have it automatically summarize those and give us a daily morning briefing to help us get ready to tackle all these new threats that have come through. And so lots of really cool things with this. And so with Workspace Studio, again, this is tying into the different pieces inside Google Workspace and automating off of those core features inside of Google Workspace. I'll just highlight templates real fast. And so again, we can create our own, or like I mentioned, we can get a daily summary of unread emails, star emails for follow-up, send email summaries and action items after meetings, get news headlines sent to us. Lots of cool things we can do with this. I'm going to jump into the other one real fast, and so that's Google Workspace, or sorry, Google AI Studio as well. This is another new feature that Google has released in the last month or so. But with this, we can start building out our AI apps. So maybe we want to build out a chatbot at our school. Maybe we want to try different things. We can see what that looks like. But this is also a spot where we can prompt Gemini to create things. And so from AI Studio, we could try out Gemini 3. We could try out VO to create videos, text-to-speech with Gemini, Nano Banana image creation. I'll just highlight this one, the text-to-speech, which I think is really useful. It allows us to create a script, either a one-person script or a two-person script, and from there it will go out and generate the audio for us. So again, maybe it's explaining a new thing in the classroom, maybe it's explaining a new trend in cybersecurity, whatever it is. We can let Google AI Studio generate some really convincing, really engaging pieces of audio with this as well. All right, and so that takes me into the two core ones that are out there. My favorite one out there is Notebook LM. I don't know if you all have used it before or not, but with Notebook LM, we can create notebooks. The exciting thing with Notebook LM is as we start adding resources to it, again, it could be uploading files, PDFs, anything like that, or importing it from websites or YouTube videos, Google Drive files, whatever it is, as we start interacting with Notebook LM, it's only going to reference the data that we give it. And so that's really, really huge as we start thinking about AI, because sometimes, like as we talk with Gemini or we talk with ChatGPT, It's going to reference things on the web. It's going to come up with random ideas. With Notebook LM, everything's grounded in our own resources. And so from there, we can use it to help us prepare for a test or prepare for a presentation or anything like that. On the right-hand side here, we can see Studio, where we can create podcast overviews, video overviews, mind maps, and then new in the last week or so, some infographics and slide decks and more, all centered around the idea of helping us understand. And so again, as we create these, I can actually come in and I can turn on fast research mode, deep research. I can also have it reference some of these other tools. Like as I come up here to the settings, I can turn on the learning guide, which again, instead of generating content, it's going to help me understand the data inside of here. And then lastly, we've got Gemini, which all of us are likely pretty familiar with. But again, this is going to be our chat interaction with Google's generative AI. And so again, new in the last few weeks, we've got the ability to generate images, deep research, guided learning, and more. Let's see, looking here, Julie loves Notebook LM. I do too. So when I am not with Trifera as a technical engineer, I am filling in as a pastor on the weekends, and I'm able to throw all my resources, all my commentaries into Notebook LM and go over that data without worrying about random pieces of information being added. Let's see, Julie mentions I was writing a paper the other day myself, upload all the references, and then had it find places I might need to cite. Yeah, awesome use case. And so again, with these, creating a video, deep research is really cool. Maybe we're getting ready to deploy something. I had to do some deep research on a new service we're looking at implementing here through Trifera, or it could be just as simple as, hey, my wife needs an oil change for her car. I can say, hey, do deep research, find the best price and the best reviews, best service for an oil change within 10 miles of my house. So lots of really cool things we can do with Gemini. I'm going to drop back to my slide deck, and we'll see how we can use it now to really enhance our productivity. Before I do that, I want to mention a couple of new Gemini-related features or security-related features inside of Google Workspace. The first one that I want to mention is that we can now use Gemini in Chrome as a browsing assistant. That's exciting for us, exciting for our teachers, but there's a big caveat with this. So this feature, it allows us to open up to 10 different tabs inside of Google Chrome, and Gemini will automatically reference those 10 open tabs if we wanted to, as we start using that to create data or interact with Gemini. What I want to highlight here is that administrators need to review the default setting for this feature, because this is a feature that is not approved for students over the age of 18. And additionally, it is not falling under the normal terms and conditions inside the admin console, because it is not at this point HIPAA compliant. And so because of those two things, I would really, really encourage you to review this and either turn it off for everybody. If not everybody, then definitely turn it off for your students. And you can find this feature in the admin console. Really encourage you to go and turn this off for your students, if for no other reason than it's rated for users over the age of 18. All right, as we keep going, I also want to mention Drive for Desktop. This is another new feature that's out there. If you go into the admin console and go to the settings for Drive and Docs and scroll to the bottom, there are a couple new features out there that can help with cybersecurity. What these new features are, as our staff use the Drive for Desktop app, that's an app that a lot of our schools use. Particularly, I know we used it around the time that we started refreshing student or staff devices, so that they could sync everything from their local device to the cloud and have it on their next device. Whatever the use case is, Google has a couple new features there. New feature, it will automatically scan your files looking for ransomware, and if it finds it, it will alert you, the Google Workspace administrator, and it will alert your teacher. The second piece with this is it also is introducing versioning inside of our documents here. That way, if a file is compromised, we can roll it back to a previously known safe version. This feature requires Google Workspace for Education Plus. Lastly, I want to mention this feature, which I think is pretty big. We now have the ability to train Gemini to detect and label sensitive data inside of our domain. If you have a Google Workspace a Google AI Pro for Education license, you can use this tool to detect and label sensitive data inside of your domain. You just need to have that one license as a super admin, and Google will do the rest. The challenge we see, so IEPs come in many formats. It could be scanned PDFs, Google Docs, Word files. Because it's across all these different platforms, the simple keyword searches and regex expressions usually miss these. And this is important because these documents usually contain highly sensitive student data protected by FERPA, as well as other protections. And so we need to do the best that we can to keep these safe. And so what we can do, again, is we can train the model to identify IEP data inside of the admin console. And so some examples, we could upload 50 different examples of real IEPs. If we need to, we could redact, student names or whatever, so that AI learns the structure, and then from there automatically applies the appropriate drive label, like, hey, this is confidential, or this is sensitive, or internal only. From there, we can also upload 50 documents that are not IEPs to teach the AI what to ignore. And for all this, we can automate protection. So by configuring a DLP rule to go in combination with these drive labels, we could set it to automatically block external sharing for any file that AI has labeled as confidential. And so thinking through that, again, that could be IEP data, that could be security credentials, security plans, employee evaluations, anything that we really want to keep confidential or keep in-house, we could use AI to scan and look for that. And so as I jump into the admin console, I'll probably have to sign in again, and I do. Give me 1 second to log in. All right, and I'll jump into this tab here as it loads. And so what we can do, we can go into data and then compliance. Sorry, wrong spot. They introduced a new one there for me. Let's look at, there we go. So we can come in and we can train Google here to scan this and look for our data for us. Sorry, Google has changed this around for me a little bit. Let's see, there's labels. And one other spot, data classification. Sorry about that. Okay, so again, with this, we can train AI to recognize specific types of content. I just need to create a model. I click the create model. From there, I'm going to reference what label I want to have it get tied to. And so I'll just say file sensitivity. As I continue on, I can specify the label that I want it to have show up. And then from there, I can start building this out and then introducing files, again, like those IEP data or IEPs, so that it starts to learn what an IEP is, and it can automatically apply things from there. All right. As we keep going, I am going to jump back to our slide deck real fast. And we'll keep going here. We can also use this to create a security awareness video for a recent security threat. And so to highlight this, I'm just going to jump into Gemini here. And I'll just say, what are some new cyber security trends that my school should be on the lookout for? And so I'm just going to ask Gemini what these threats are that are out there. And of course, mine doesn't want to work. Give me 1 second to try to open Gemini. There we go. Now we're off and running. Okay, so we're asking Gemini what these new cybersecurity trends are that are out there. And I'm just going to pick one at random here. So as we drop down, let's see. Vendor and supply chain vulnerabilities probably isn't great, but let's do this one. The rise of agentic AI attacks. Attackers are no longer just using AI to write better phishing emails. They're using AI agents that can autonomously execute complex attacks. Actually, let's do this last one. Double extortion. So we'll grab this one as an example. Internet of Things devices, which I think is a growing threat. We had that large rush to get IoT devices and smart speakers and everything into the classroom. And I think a lot of those have been forgotten in our new security threats. But what I'm going to do, I have copied that threat. I'm just going to go into Google Vids. I'm going to say, hey, let's make a new video. And I'm going to start with the storyboard here. And I'm going to paste in this information. I'm going to say at the very top, create a video training my staff on how to handle IoT devices securely. And so I'll hit next here. It's going to go out and create a training outline for me. I can see what falls into it. I can customize that if I need to. In the interest of time, I'm just going to select next. From there, I can select a theme. I'll just go with this one in the interest of time and create a video draft. Gemini and Google Viz are going to go out and do the rest. So we'll wait a sec as it creates this new video for us. Again, I think this is a really, really great use of Google Viz because it allows us to create compelling videos right on time. I know for us, we had back to school security awareness training that all of our staff had to go through. The problem with that was somebody had to create that video every single year, or it just sat out there and got stagnant. And what I mean by that, my old school district, they still show the exact same security awareness video at the back to school season every August. I know that because that video still says, if you have questions or you complete this video, message Joe Smizer. I've been gone almost 5 years now. I still get people every single fall saying, hey, are you back with the school district? Our video says to contact you. And so just how it's, how our videos get out of date. Here with this, now all of a sudden we've got a video that's ready to go. I can hit play. And so now we've got a...
Welcome to this crucial...
There. Question back to you. Have you all been able to use Google Vids yet? So Google Vids is a new feature that's been released in 2025. Have you all been able to use it? While you respond to that question, I see, so Shannon said, yep. John says not yet. Aaron's got, no, not yet. Again, I would encourage you to check it out. If you have Google Workspace for Education Plus, you're being grandfathered access into the Gemini premium features in Google Vids through the end of this school year. So you might as well take advantage of that if you have Google Workspace for Education Plus. Again, if you have those licenses, you're being given access to the Google AI Pro features in Vids through the end of the school year. All right, awesome. All right, so as we come back, we'll keep going. We'll go through some more examples here. As we keep going, I want to briefly mention Gemini and privacy because this is important. So Gemini in education, it offers enterprise-grade security. So our prompts are not used to train public models. Human reviewers do not see our data. This helps it adhere to the same FERPA and COPPA compliance standards as the rest of Google Workspace. And so if we're ever concerned about that, we're concerned about what our users are putting into Gemini, we don't need to stress as much as some of the other AI tools out there. Because again, our prompts are not being used to train the data and human reviewers are not seeing the data either. So essentially our data is staying our data. Awesome. As we keep going, I'm going to pose this question back to you real fast. So if I paste a log containing student emails into Gemini with a Google, Gemini, sorry, let me rephrase this. I don't love that. Let's go back to this idea of training this because this was supposed to be a better question. It didn't work out. Again, the idea is we can train up to 5 models there with Google AI Pro. All right, so let's see how we can use Gemini to improve some of our core security operations inside of the school district. And so with that, as we talked about, these attackers are starting to use AI to make more and more convincing phishing emails. And so since it's becoming tougher for us to identify it, maybe we can use AI, the same tools the attackers are using to try to combat that. And so let's say we receive an email, we're concerned if it's phishing or not. I don't have a great example of this. Let me pause that. I received this email. It's just a generic marketing email from Canva. But if I'm concerned about this and I want to know, hey, is this phishing? I can take the entire content, copy and paste it, and now I can go into Gemini. And let me share my screen. I'll start a new chat here and I'll say, does this message look like phishing? And so I'll hit return, paste in the content I copied there. And so it's going to look at the verbiage and the links and the subject line to try to identify phishing inside of that message. It's going to go out and run this and we'll see what it says. And so again, coming back, it says, based on the details, this email looks highly likely to be legitimate. And that makes sense because it is a legitimate marketing email. But again, as we walk through, we can see all the different things that it reviewed, things to be aware of. Again, verify safely using the hover test. So if we're on a desktop, we can hover over those links. But we can take this a step farther, and what I think is really exciting, sometimes it's tough to tell. I can go in, let me share my Gmail tab again. I can go in and I'm gonna drop down to this message and say show original. Now I can see the message header of my email here. And so I'm just going to copy everything, the raw message behind the scenes, and I'm gonna come back and try one more time. Does this message look like phishing? So I'll come back in, paste in all that code that I just copied. It's going to go through and review my message header. So looking at the sender, the recipient, how it got into the inbox, as well as the rest of the data inside the email. And so we'll give Gemini a second to review that. And so again, with this, we can see that it is legitimate. It's not phishing. In this case, it passed the authentication test. So it passed SPF, passed DKIM, passed DMARC. The sender domain is official. The return path is normal. The links are safe. And so it's gone out and it's reviewed the links. It's reviewed everything, telling me that, hey, this email looks legit. All right, as we keep going, I want to touch on as many examples as we can before we run out of time at the top of the hour. So I'll jump back. And so with this, we'll jump into the next one here. So the problem we're running into in this next one is, hey, building regex expressions for student IDs, IEP data, or specific credit card formats is somewhat error prone. Can we describe the pattern? Can we get the regex? And so what we can do here, we can take the prompt, write a regex expression for Google Workspace DLP that identifies a student ID formatted as ST followed by 6 digits, and then explain it how it handles false positives. I'm not going to take this directly into Gemini. You can try this at your convenience. I want to highlight that this is a great use case for a handful of different things, because maybe it's regex expressions, maybe it's writing different code for context-aware access and some of the policies around context-aware access. If we want to go the advanced route, there are some really cool things we can do, but coding is not my first language, and so being able to take these prompts and get code back or policies back is really, really helpful. As we keep going here, log analysis and anomalies. Again, this is another big one that I think is really, really useful. So maybe we export a list of logins from our admin console. So highlight that. I'm going to go into the admin console. We'll just see what this looks like. And so I'm going to share my tab. I'm going to go into reporting, and I'm going to drop down to audit and investigation. We'll just look at the user logs so we can see when users have signed in, IP addresses, things like that. And I'm just going to search for everything. And so I'll just clear that out. I'll hit search. So it comes back with everything. I'm going to export it to a Google Sheet in this case. I'll just say test export. Again, we can reference a Google Sheet inside of Gemini, or we can reference a PDF. Either way will work. Export is in process. This might take a little bit, but again, it's a demo domain, so hopefully it shouldn't take too long. While that's running, I'm going to touch on a couple of other things. We can come back and see this. Again, just kind of highlighting the importance of this. For us to understand suspicious activity inside our domain, I think it's really important that we first understand normal activity. So we have to be inside of our logs all the time to identify this. But like if we imagine our school district, my school district had something like 3.5 million loggable events every single day. That's a ton of data, and that's data from Google and the web filter and the firewall and everything else, security cameras, right? All those collecting into one spot where we have 2.5 million loggable events every single day. What do we do with all that data? So what we can do, I'm going to go into Gemini now that this is done exporting, and I'm just going to say, does anything in these logs look suspicious? Again, referencing, we could parse it or look for specific things or use different prompts if we needed to. But in this case, I'm going to add it from Drive. And so there's my test export. I'll hit start. Gemini's going to go out and run with it from there. So it's going to go through and start looking at this, examining suspicious criteria. We'll give it a moment to walk through this. And again, just can be super helpful because like I mentioned, with 2.5 million loggable events every single day, one, we don't have the time or manpower to try to walk through that. And even if we did, right, 2.5 million loggable events, after a certain point, it's all going to run together. But with this, we can see, in this case, from a short answer, from a cybersecurity perspective, these logs are clean. But as it starts looking through, we can start looking at tracking links, bounces, received, and just different things like that. And actually, it's referencing the email. So I may need to start a new chat. Is there anything suspicious in these logs? And so I'm just going to add it back one more time. While that runs, we'll jump into our next example. And so in the interest of time, we're going to jump forward. So I'll share this slide again. Maybe instead of reviewing things in our domain, we can also use Gemini to create different policies and plans for us. And so maybe that's drafting an incident response plan. My school district had never really considered cybersecurity. And so we had to go through a process of creating all of our different cybersecurity incident response plans, clean desk policies, all of our policies from scratch. I remember that taking me like 6 months of work day in, day out doing this. But now we can use Gemini to help us create some of these policies. And so let me see if we can't create this as well. And so I'm just going to say, let me share my tab here. I'm going to say, help me create a clean desk policy for my school district staff. And so it's going to go out. If I need to, I can continue in this conversation. Like if I don't love the first draft it gives me, I can type in this conversation with it. This is great, but help me to do X, Y, or Z. As an aside there, I don't know if you're like me, I try to be as polite as possible with AI. I'm not sure why that is, but I do like to drop in the please and thank you. But again, with this, I can see our clean desk policy created in just a couple seconds. We can see the purpose. If we want to ground it in specific like NIST standards, we could do that as well. But now we've got this document that's ready to go. And again, it could be incident response plans. Another one I really like, create a tabletop exercise for reviewing a cybersecurity event in Google Workspace in my school district. And from there, it's going to go out and create a tabletop exercise that we can walk through so that we can walk through a scenario and understand what to do in the event that we get hit with ransomware for real. This will give us a practice for that. Real fast, I'm going to highlight this. This was the logs prompt that we gave it a little while ago. And in this case, it's showing us explicit suspicious logins, block sensitive logins, repeated login failures, and more. So we can review these. These are the suspicious things that it found. As I come back though, this is the tabletop exercise it created. So in this case, the phantom principle. This is gonna be an exercise that takes 60 to 90 minutes. It's gonna tell us the participants that should be in here. In this case, HR director, tech team, Google admin, director of technology, and communications director in this case. And so we can see the scenario, walk through the discussion questions, and then walk through the event as it continues to expand so that we know what to do when these security incidents hit us in real time. All right, as we keep going, I'm going to try to touch on these real fast. So we're going to stop at the top of the hour and transition our discussion to cybersecurity. Before we do, I want to highlight a couple other prompts real fast. We can use Gemini to write scripts to help us automate console tasks or to help us automate things with apps script. If you are like me, I've never really used app script before. I'm not great with JavaScript, but what I was able to do, and I'll just highlight this real fast. Let me share my screen. So we have used demo accounts with our Google Workspace admin boot camps. These are trainings that we do every month here at Trifera. But Google introduced a fun new policy last week where Google domain super admins had to have two-step authentication set up. It was a real headache for us in our demo accounts, right? So how do we get demo account access for two-step verification and things like that? Well, with this spreadsheet, I was able to take this and create some Google app script commands here and scripts in the background so that it can automatically go out and, for example, this domain or this user here, I can have it go out and generate new backup codes so we can sign in with backup codes. I can have it check and see, hey, is this set up for two-step verification? It's going to go out, check Google Admin, give us the result. Yep, they're enrolled. Yep, here are the new commands. And so we could use this with lots of different things inside the admin console if we wanted to, or inside how we manage Google Workspace. And so again, app scripts, if you're unfamiliar, start with the problem, start with the doc, and see how Google App Script can help. It'll create the code for you in the background. Again, with any of these, I want to highlight, always test these scripts as a dummy account first. We don't want to accidentally nuke anything inside of our domain. As we keep going, a couple others I'll highlight real fast. BigQuery and SQL or SQL. Write SQL queries to find specific threats without knowing SQL deep dives. If you haven't checked out BigQuery yet, I'd really encourage you to check that out if you have Google Workspace for Education Plus, because you can export your logs to BigQuery and retain the logs there. That way you can search them with SQL here, or you can also use those logs to create compelling interactive dashboards using Looker Studio. And then lastly, didn't include it on there, but one other use case you might consider would also be GAM. If you haven't used GAM before, GAM's a free command line based tool that allows you to take control of certain things inside Google Workspace. But if you're ever confused, how do I create a command? How do I use the right command? You can go into Gemini to create GAM commands as well. All right, lastly, we'll wrap up with some next steps. Real fast, I've got some next steps and things to consider here. So you might consider using Gemini to detect phishing emails like we talked about, reviewing and summarizing new threats, including what indicators of compromise should I be on the lookout for. We can use it to draft security policies, train our staff with Google Vids, identify trends, and more. And I'll highlight this, so 20 more ways Google admins can use Gemini to improve security. So drafting breach notification emails, tabletop exercises, phishing simulation texts, decoding complex error messages, right? Lots and lots of different ways that we can use Gemini to help make our life easier and to help make our domain more productive, more effective, and more secure. All right, so with that, I've talked a lot. I just want to mention a couple things real fast as we wrap up. Again, when it comes to prompts, we've got a couple suggestions on the screen here that you can use at any time. Drafting a welcome letter, including links to the AUP, the staff portal, and how to request tech support. Summarizing the 10-page vendor security document into 5 key bullet points. Scripting, using this to create Google Apps scripts. In this case, to find all Google classrooms that do not have any activity in the last 3 months. Explaining the security risk of less secure apps, and then generating a 3-step, easy-to-follow guide for students who have to clear their Chromebooks cache and cookies. With any of this, again, just as a reminder, consider the role as you do this. So start with the role. So act as a blank. So act as a cybersecurity analyst. Act as a K-12 Google Workspace administrator. That way you can ground the response in the appropriate setting. Then from there, provide as much context as you can. So I have a suspicious email. I need a policy for teachers. I have X, Y, and Z. Help me do the rest. Also pays to be specific, so give clear details. And then with the iteration, you may not get the perfect response the first time, so continue to refine it, right? So make it simpler, make it 50% longer, update the verbiage so that any teacher can understand this complex cybersecurity idea. Lots of cool things we can do with this. Some other use cases as well. All right. So Joe mentions, will there be a recording and slides of the presentation? Yes. So the recording will be made available when it's done. The slide deck is available inside of the agenda that we shared with you earlier. So if you have access to that handout, you can find the slide deck there. If not, let me paste it in the chat one more time. So again, you can find all of our resources here. All right, so as we wrap up, I'll give you a couple moments. We'll skip over our review questions just in the interest of time, but I will ask this one. So as our exit activity for this first session, I've got a couple things. One, if you have a question, drop your question in the chat. We'll do the best we can to answer it. And then what is one manual task you did this week that Gemini could help with? What is one thing that Gemini might be able to help with, or one thing that you are going to try moving forward. One thing that we can try when we go back to our schools later this afternoon. Mention the script building. Yeah, it's a big one. Awesome. We have a question about a certificate of completion. We don't have any. You might email us, so we might be able to generate one if we need. If you really need us to email us, we might be able to do that. So again, asset inventory updates, scripting, vids, already shared using AI to identify phishing emails. Send out info guides as a Google vid instead of infographic. Awesome. Yeah. One other thing I'll highlight with Google Vids is it also takes a look at Google Slides now. So if you have a slide deck you really like, you can have Google Vids reference that slide deck and turn the slide deck into a video for you. Awesome. 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 I don't see a ton of questions. If you have a question, message me, email me, whatever it is. We're here to help however we can. But with that, we're going to take our first and only break as we take a little break and get ready to jump into our next session. So at 1:05, we'll get started with our next session. Yeah, let me drop in my email real fast. There we go. So we'll get started at 1:05. We're going to take a quick break. Again, if you want to join Anna's presentation, feel free to do that, or you can just stick around in this space and we'll get started with our next tech session here at 1:05. So 5 minutes. Again, if you want to find Anna's, you can reference the handout that we gave you earlier. But again, we'll take a quick break and we'll be back at 1:05. All right, it is 1:05, so we're going to go ahead and get started with our second session of the breakout track, defending your domain for a happy and hopefully quiet 2026. And so again, diving in, my name is Joe Smyser. I'm Senior Google Workspace Engineer with Trafera. Over the next 55 minutes or so, we're going to take a deep dive into all things security inside of Google Workspace for Education. So we'll talk about the current threat landscape. We'll go into the Google Workspace investigation tool and use that for investigating a phishing attack. We'll also take a look at how we can set up rules and automate some certain things inside of Google Workspace to take the burden off of us, to automatically identify and take the necessary steps to take to make sure that our domain is safe. We've got some hands-on activities. We'll discuss the importance of log monitoring, kind of like we did last session. Again, we don't know what's going on unless we know what's going on. We have to be in there all the time to see what's going on. Proactive threat hunting and other features of Education Plus. We've got a lot to get through, and we may not get through all of it, but we'll do the best we can. I want to highlight inside of the agenda. Let me share this one more time. Inside of the agenda, you can find a link to the slide deck. That way, if we run out of time, you can reference the slides that we missed. Additionally, we have a handout there as well, so some next steps that can help you with cybersecurity in your domain. And so to highlight that, I just want to highlight this next steps documents so that you can reference this going forward and download it, make a copy of it in your own environment. But as we get through, we've got 12 next steps to improve cybersecurity, so enabling two-step authentication, running a security audit, and with each of these, we've got links to help you get started as well. All right, so let's take a step back. Let's dive in. Let's get started on how we can defend our domain. And hopefully with the protections in place, we can have a happy and quiet New Year's instead of worrying about account compromises and ransomware and everything else. All right, we talked about that earlier in our Google services. Again, just keep in mind, if there's ever anything we can help you with, please keep us in mind because we would love to help however we can. All right, so let's dive in. So we posed this at the beginning of the first session, but I'll just ask it one more time. I have a feeling we'll get a lot of the same responses, but what is the biggest cybersecurity challenge right now? What is your biggest cybersecurity challenge right now? Users, BYOD, ooh, yeah, that's a good one. Phishing attempts, staff, yep, people phishing, yeah, a lot of the same responses we had earlier. But again, I just wanted to kind of ground our conversation with this so that we're there. Always users, yep, always users, totally get that. Just to highlight the user conversation, I remember my assistant superintendent, she loved to take selfies from her office. But what she didn't realize was on the whiteboard in her office behind her, she had also taped up her Google Workspace super admin username and password. And that was included in a lot of the photos she was posting online. And so again, yeah, I totally understand. Security awareness and getting people to understand is a huge, huge burden. All right, so as we keep going, I want to talk a little bit about the current threat landscape. A lot of this is not going to be new to you, but what we've seen over the last few years is that K-12 institutions are the #1 target for ransomware and other threats. What we saw going back to 2020 was the worst year on record for cybersecurity incidents in the United States. That makes sense. Everything was virtual back in 2020. But as we keep looking at these trends, we've seen a doubling in the number of cyber attacks affecting educational institutions, a 550% increase in distributed denial of service or DDoS attacks against educational domains, and 24.5 million sensitive educational records being affected going back to 2005. On your screen, you can see the threats facing K-12 schools. The dark blue is data breach. The orange, really it's green, I believe. Green in this case is going to be ransomware. Light blue is business email, or yeah, whatever it is, it's business email compromise. The idea that our Gmail accounts have somehow been compromised, or our Outlook accounts have been compromised. Red is DDoS. Yellow is invasion or classroom invasion. Really what that would be like Zoom bombing. So people taking over some of our Zoom links. If you were in this role back during the pandemic, you would remember that for sure. But these trends aren't going anywhere, right? What we've seen in 2025 is a 23% jump in the number of ransomware attacks targeting K-12 institutions. And so that's startling, right? Because we've seen this trend explode over the last 5 years, 10 years, and it's still continuing to grow today. We've also seen a new trend, worrying trend, where over half of school insider attacks are caused by students, often just to see what they can get away with. We've seen a rise in AI-driven phishing, like we talked about last hour, and we've seen a jump in the number of QR code phishing attempts, or phishing, which is a new sophisticated phishing technique targeting mobile devices. And again, this is something that really kind of scares me, because as we imagine all the different flyers and things taped up in our buildings, I think there are probably 1,000 different QR codes scattered across our buildings. How do we combat some of those threats? All right. As we keep going, a couple other recent headlines just to make sure that we see this. We saw this before, but again, people hacking their own schools for fun, ransomware attacks in education jump, and cyber attacks against U.S. education continuing to rise. But we want to highlight here, this is more than just a statistic. This is real life. We had a school district that we helped. This breach would have been a couple years back, but as a part of the breach, the attackers demanded $4.5 million in Bitcoin. When the district refused to pay the ransom, the attackers leaked over 300,000 sensitive student files on the dark web. And what we're seeing is that as these attackers gain access to our domain, they're not just looking to steal data anymore, they're looking to inflict as much damage as they can. And so these 300,000 sensitive student files, those were some of the most sensitive files that could be released. Those were disciplinary records, health records, sexual assault records. The list went on and on and on. And once these things get made public on the web, they're not going anywhere. The school district hired a third-party forensics firm and lawyers. They were paid as much as $370 an hour to negotiate with the hackers. The hackers, however, did not play ball. After the data breach, one educator reported that more than $26,000 was withdrawn from their bank account, and another received a direct threat via Twitter from the Medusa contact team. And so really, really scary stuff with this. It's not just, hey, our student data is being stolen, which is scary, but now it's being used to steal money on top of it. Now it's being used to leak sensitive things about our students. And so it's really, really important that we stay on top of this. Alexis mentions Ferris Bueller did it. Yeah, for sure. As we keep going, I want to help us hopefully understand the attack life cycle, just kind of laying this out. These attacks typically occur over 4 phases. The first one is reconnaissance. So the attackers gather information about us and our domain and our users. There are typically some automations in place that can help them scrape this data off of our website. We as school districts do a really, really good job of making some of this information online, or putting maybe too much information online. I totally recognize that there are some things that we need to disclose or be totally transparent about because we are government agencies and everything else. But at the end of the day, do we really need to put on our website who the specific person is for handling direct deposit? Or do we need to have some of this other information out there? So just be careful with what we put out there. After that, these attackers in phase 2 try to gain entry, often using stolen credentials that they gained access to via phishing and other attacks. And this is where most attacks begin against schools. After that, we see data exfiltration, so people stealing data, student PII, staff records. And if they're not stealing data, then they're disrupting services by shutting our systems down with ransomware. And that persistence in phase 4, even after the attack, they typically leave behind a backdoor so they can come back and do this again, which is really why a lot of places recommend not paying the ransom, because even if we pay the ransom, that backdoor is typically still there and they can come right back and do it to us again next week. And so just staying on top of this. All right. So as we keep going, we mentioned the phase 1 with the reconnaissance. I'm going to quickly go through these. But again, with this, it's often done with open source intelligence, or OSINT, searching public websites, social media, and more. They also use scanning and social engineering. The one that I'll highlight here is Google Dorks. So what are Google Dorks? Dorks are specialized search queries that use advanced operators to find publicly exposed information. And so, for example, we can try this out and see what information is available on the web Some of the dorks would be, so we can go into Google, into the search box and type in sites and then our school website. From there, we can specify file type. Maybe it's a PDF, maybe it's an Excel, and we could look for the keyword password. So now we're going to see every single time password is mentioned in documents on our website. And if we find it, then we need to take action and clean up some of those leaks. Same idea with the second one. So site, again, looking at a site with the file type, in this case being a PDF, looking for the word confidential. Or it could be a site looking at docs.google.com, looking for a staff directory. Or we could also look in title for the index of a private document. So again, lots of things we can do. I would really encourage you to run these commands on your own. That way you can really get a feel for how much data you're sharing online as an institution, so that you can then take action if you need to. Also ensure your Google Drive and other workspace apps are not set to public for sharing, and train staff on the best way to make sensitive files available without making them publicly available on the web, which again, kind of falls back into our discussion on training our staff, training our users, which again is easier said than done. Phase 2, we see the initial access like we talked about. And with phase 2, it's typically password spraying or malicious attached applications or phishing. And then with exfiltration, it's done through mass downloads, external sharing, and ransomware. These first two, these are things that we can take action against using the admin console and using the investigation tool. We can create activity log or activity rules to alert us if, say, a user downloads 500 files or more at a time, because maybe we need to be worried about data loss. Same idea with, maybe somebody's deleting 500 files or more at a time. And that way we could say, all right, these people are trying to destroy data. Maybe we need to review what's going on there. External file sharing, again, this is another big one that I would encourage you to audit from time to time. That way you get a feel for how your files are being shared and what files are being shared. And then lastly, that persistence level. To help that, the attacker usually creates a new account with elevated privileges. Again, just going back to the idea that we need to constantly audit what's going on inside our domain. Part of that is auditing admins and admin credentials and admin privileges, because one, in a school district, that changes all the time. As school years end, new school years start, people transfer in, people transfer out, employees come and go. And so we need to make sure that we keep our admin accounts in line with that too, to make sure that people have access to what they need and nothing more. Okay. So again, with this, similar to our last session, we created some demo accounts for you to use. These are different demo accounts. If you'd like to try out the investigation tool or anything like that, you can do that with these demo accounts that we have here. I will mention, again, going back to that discussion we had last hour on Google mandating two-step authentication for admin accounts, that is true with these as well. So the first time you sign into these accounts, you'll be prompted to set up two-step. If you just give it a phone number or whatever, maybe it's a school phone number, your office phone number, and then turn on two-step, that should work okay, because these accounts will be nuked at the end of the day today, so you don't have to worry about that. But again, if you want to try out some of these features in a demo environment, or maybe you don't have access to Education Plus, you can try out these Education Plus features with the demo accounts on your screen. All right. As we get started, we'll get started taking a look at the Security Center. We'll talk through some things inside the security dashboard, the security investigation tool, and the security health page. Let me dive in real fast, and we'll share this in the admin console, just in the event that you are new to this. All right, so I am in the admin console. I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to drop down to Security Center. The three big features for cybersecurity inside of Education Plus are going to be inside of the Security Center. I'll get started just kind of walking through the dashboard. And again, with the dashboard, if you're new to this, this is going to be your one-stop shop for all things security metrics and analytics inside of your domain. As I scroll through, I can see external file sharing, message authentication, suspicious logins. We can see how different DLP rules have been triggered. If there's been phishing or spoofing, user reported events, OAuth activity, lots and lots of things that we can keep an eye on here. We can also create our own custom widgets too. So if we are concerned about a specific subset of users or a specific action, we can also create a custom chart to add to this screen here. Well, I'll just highlight here, what does external file sharing look like for our domain? When I select view report, I can come in, I can see file sharing, and I can interact with it. If I'm only concerned with files being shared externally outside of my domain, I can uncheck these checkboxes. And from there, I can see a list of my files being accessed the most from people outside my domain. In this case, I can see this literary analysis by Lindsay Keeley. I can go in and I can see who it's shared with. I can see its visibility, and I can take action against it. But we'll come back to that in a second. I can also see domains interacting with my files. Typically, this is going to be, you know, large employers in the area, personal Gmail accounts, neighboring school districts or colleges, things like that. If I notice a domain in here that doesn't make any sense, I can go in and take action as well. But for example, maybe I'm concerned about this character analysis feedback that Kristen Dupuy made. I can launch an investigation here in just a click, and it's going to go in, find that specific file, and then give me the information that I need to make an informed decision. So with this, as I scroll down, I can see scrolling across, it's been shared externally, and it's been shared with a GTrainer demo account and the Trafera account. But if I want to, I can take action here. Because it's shared externally, I can go in and select this, and under actions, I can add users to this file, change the owner, disable how it's being shared, remove users from it. And so this could be really great as I audit file permissions. Maybe I go in, I see, hey, I've got a file being shared publicly, it's being accessed by people outside of my domain that we don't want it to have that sort of access. I can come in here and I can change link sharing so that, you know, maybe it's being shared publicly online with a link. I can change how it's being shared. I can also change if it's in a shared drive and what users have access to this as well. So if I wanted to take access away from Kristen, I could come in and change ownership, change viewing permissions, or revoke permissions outright. That, again, is inside the investigation tool now. We'll talk more about the investigation tool here in a moment. But with the security health page, the last page down here, I just want to briefly mention this because it is your one-stop shop for a quick miniature security audit. It's going to take a look at your domain settings and then compare them against Google Workspace's best practices. Anything with a green check mark is secure. It's already been set up. Anything with a gray recommendation icon is something we haven't done yet. And as I select the recommendation, it's going to tell me why it's recommended, as well as telling me step-by-step how I can set that up. But again, the star of the show, the thing that I think makes Education Plus worth it all by itself is the security investigation tool. With this, I can come in and I can query against all of these different events inside of my domain and then instantly take action. And so, for example, I'm just going to share Gmail messages for now. We'll come back and explore this a little bit more over the coming moments. But I have this new email that's gone out. I can go in now and I can take action against this email, where I can view the message header, delete it outright, where it deletes it from our end user's inbox and maintains a copy inside of Vault. I can mark it as phishing or spam, restore it, send it to the inbox, or send it to quarantine. As I scroll across, I can see the owner, the sender, the recipient. I can also see if it's been read. In this case, it's in the inbox, it has not been read yet. But what I think is exciting, I can also go in here and select this, and I can see the message header. I can see the route it took to get to my inbox. I can also see the raw header. Again, with an easy copy and paste, I could take that into Gemini if I wanted to. I can see the message. I need to give it a justification, so I'll say potential phishing. Oh, hang on. Yeah, it does that. We aren't seeing the tab. Yeah, that is. There we go. Sorry about that. Potential phishing. And now I can see the message itself. And what I think is really exciting, for any attachment, I can also open the attachment in VirusTotal. So instead of downloading this potentially malicious file to my desktop, I can actually just open the VirusTotal report for it. What it does is it takes this file hash, this file signature, and compares that against 30 different security vendors, asking them what they think of that file. And if they think it's malicious, it's going to give us lots of additional information, like indicators of compromise, how long that attack's been observed in the wild, other things to look out for. And that's viewing that with VirusTotal. For us, this won't give us anything, I'm assuming, because it's never actually made it outside our domain. But in the event that this was a threat, we could open it with VirusTotal and get some additional information. All right. So let's keep going. Let's see if we can do some threat hunting with the investigation tool. Real fast, Chris mentions if you delete a message, does that end user know that? So they won't receive a notification, but if they know that message is there and they go to look for it, they might notice it's missing. Yeah, good question there, Chris. There isn't like a, hey, this message was deleted pop-up, but if they knew it should be there, they might still call you. Okay, as we keep going, we can use this to really go through and summarize and take action what's going on inside our domain with log monitoring. Again, as we think through this, we can use this to look at login events, drive events. So with drive events, maybe we're looking for unusual mass deletions or large volumes of data being shared with new external email addresses, user management events, email events, and more. What's nice with this, as I go back to the investigation tool, let me share the screen again. I can export all this data. And so I can export this to a Google Sheet or a CSV. That way I can review it in a different spot, or I can also go in and take that data into the Looker Studio to create interactive, compelling dashboards. But I'll just highlight here one other thing that I think is really useful. One thing that we see all the time is attackers will send like 500 emails from one inbox, and then they'll pivot and send another 500 from a different inbox. If that's the case, we can pivot our investigation to follow that. So with any of these, I can hover and I can click the 3 dots. I can copy a value. So if this was like an IP address, I could copy the IP address and take it into my firewall or somewhere else. I can also pivot my investigation based off of the subject line. And so now I'm going to pivot. Now I can see every single email that matches this subject line. So that I can then take action from there. And I can export, save these, lots of cool things we can do with this. Coming back to the slide, as we keep going here, let's explore the investigation tool just a little bit so we can do this or get a better feel for this. So let me walk through this and we'll jump into some other features. I'm inside the investigation tool. We took a look at Gmail messages. The one thing that I'm going to highlight with some of these other ones, we can also go in and take action against Gmail log events. These are going to be a little bit different. As I close out, I'm going to close that and add conditions here. I can add a condition to look for an attachment malware family. So if I know, hey, I want to be on the lookout for a virus or a worm, I can search through my logs for that or create automation based off of that. Same's true, maybe it's known to be malicious, it's potentially unwanted. As we come back, I can also add in some additional events here. And so for example, I can add in the event that the attachment was downloaded, or an attachment link was clicked, or a suspicious link was clicked inside the message itself. That way, if I have a message here and I'm concerned about this message, I can take it a step farther and I can instantly go and see, not only did I delete the message, but I can see a quick list. Hey, these 8 people clicked the link, or these 8 people downloaded the attachment. Maybe I need to take some additional follow-up steps with them. Continuing on, some other ones here. DKIM domain, device session, does it have an attachment? Some other really cool things we can do. Spam classification. And so was it marked as spam because of DMARC or sender reputation, suspicious attachment, anything like that? We can create some rules based off of that. I'm going to pivot a little bit again just to highlight this. We've looked at user events. We can see suspicious logins. One other one that I really enjoy pointing out is OAuth log events. So what we see as we do domain audits around the country is more often than not, we see people accessing some third-party apps that have 0 academic merit. So if we went into the admin console and looked at our third-party apps, we could see, for example, oh, okay, OnlyFans has been signed into with our Google Workspace account by 3 different users. It won't tell me who those 3 users are, though. What I could do is I could go in, grab the message ID, and bring them, or not the message ID, the application ID, bring the application ID into OAuth. And I could just say, all right, based on the application ID, show me everybody who's been using that, and I could then take action from there. It won't, as I search for this, I'll just highlight this. It's not going to permanently block them, but I could go in, I've got this save as a doc. I could come in, I could revoke access tokens for that user. So the next time the user runs it, they'll have to re-authenticate into it. Great use for, maybe we're troubleshooting a plugin or something in the classroom. We could revoke access and have them sign in again. Okay, a couple other ones I'll mention real fast. Again, just in the interest of time, I'm moving relatively quickly, but a few others that are worth pointing out. We can look at meet log events. So students are remarkably gifted at finding ways to bend the rules. And so even if we create a rule saying students cannot create their own Google Meet links, Students will go out and sometimes find old Meet links and use those to chat with their friends. We could find those meeting links, select them, and then instantly in meeting for everybody. And so what that'll do is it will permanently break the meeting link as well as kicking everyone out of it and ending the meeting. Okay, let me see if there's anything big that I've missed so far, but we've talked about a lot of these: Meet logs, OAuth, let's see, groups, Gmail, context-aware access, which we'll talk about next. Awesome. One other one that I'll highlight here under these logs, we can also come in and we can take a look at Vault logs. So if we want to see how people are using Google Vault, we can. And we can take a look at Gemini for Workspace as well. So we come in, query how Gemini is being used here, and we could use this data to create a report so that we could share with key stakeholders or technology director or school board or parents or whoever how Gemini is being adopted inside of our school districts. All right, as we keep going, let's keep going. We'll talk a little bit about context-aware access. So context-aware access is another feature with Google Workspace for Education Plus that allows you to set up granular, specific login policies inside of your domain. I thought I had, maybe the slide's just out of order, so I apologize for that. So we mentioned finding and deleting emails in the investigation tool. There are some activities here that you can complete when you want to, or if you'd like to come back and try this out. So in this example here, a user reports receiving a suspicious email with a link they believe is malicious. We need to identify and investigate the email's origins and identify everyone else who may have received it. So I can come into the investigation tool and add conditions. In this case, maybe it's just the subject, and the subject is set to suspicious login or contains the word suspicious login. I can come in to my investigation tool, and again, we were querying here based off of Gmail messages. And so I'll just say Gmail message, and I'll add a condition here for subject, and I'll just say that it contains the word suspicious. So I can hit search. I can fine-tune this result by updating things like who the recipient was, who the sender was, date range, things like that to find the perfect set of results. Then after that, I can come in and I can delete the message for everybody. I can review suspicious links inside of it. I can open suspicious attachments in VirusTotal. Lots of things I can do with that. I can also see how many people received it. And so I'm looking for this one here, out of office. This is the one I'm looking for. I can pivot my investigation here to find every message with that. Then I can get a feel for not just how many people have it, but who they are, and I can take action from there. All right. Coming back, a couple other ones. This is another one that was from a real world example here. So for me, back when I worked for a school district, I remember a perfect summer evening. I went for a run, and right when I was as far away from my house as I could be, I get a call from our communications director telling me, hey, I just sent an email by mistake. We had a student pass away. I didn't have permission to share the news of this student's death. I need to have a list of everyone who's opened it so I can send a follow-up email saying, hey, this was sent by mistake. Please don't share it. And then for everybody who hasn't opened it yet, I want to just delete it outright. Well, in this case, we could come in and we could take a look at this. In this case, we'd use the investigation tool to find the email. In this case, Walt Longmire was the name of the student in the subject line. We could filter the results to show any unopened messages. That way we could then instantly delete them. And then to find someone who had opened it, we could create a new search with the same conditions, this time filtering the results to show only open messages. If we wanted to, we could also export the list to Google Sheets to provide a report of all the users who had viewed it. That way from that Google Sheet, the communications director could just grab all the emails, copy and paste those into Gmail, and then send a follow-up email saying, again, hey, this was sent by mistake. Please keep it confidential. Mason mentions had a newsletter sent out that we had to delete so we could send it out with a corrected version. Yep, absolutely, you can do it that way. One other use case with the investigation tool and emails, let's say our health insurance company sends an email to everybody who's enrolled in health insurance. And because they've sent it to so many people, it gets flagged as spam. We could go into the investigation tool, find that email, and get it out of spam and delivered to the correct inbox in just a couple clicks as well. Okay, and again, I mentioned all of this because if you don't have the security investigation tool, the only way you could really take action against these is with GAM. And so if you're unfamiliar with GAM, You can see a screenshot on your screen. It is somewhat tedious to use. It's tedious to find the correct email. It's possible that you delete the wrong email or all email by mistake. And for us, another big limitation, we had 13,000 students, 20,000 users. GAM's going to look at inboxes one at a time. And so for our domain, looking at 20,000 inboxes, it might take 7 or 8 hours for that script to run. And in those 7 or 8 hours, that threat still exists inside of my domain, right? It's still being opened, it's still being downloaded, it's still having its links clicked and shared. So again, just a really big believer in the investigation tool. A couple other use cases with this, identifying risky user behavior. So we could go into the investigation tool, set the classification for spam to phishing, and we can see every phishing event inside of our domain. Sorry, looking at this, Holly asked the question, does deleting the message really delete it, or does it just move it to trash and the user can still delete it? Still see it. It deletes it outright. So the user will not have a copy of it. It is still maintained in Vault, though, if you ever need to find it inside of Vault for compliance reasons. All right. We can also explore the Gmail log event and the different filters there, like I mentioned earlier, where we can see malware family, attachment hash. Another one that I would highlight here with this target attachment hash, maybe we ask Gemini what some of the common phishing threats are, or maybe we go into like talosintelligence.com and we see that there is a jump in a certain specific ransomware event. We could go and find the file hash and take that file hash into the investigation tool and see if any of our emails have had that as an attachment. All right, investigating user logs. As we keep going here, we can use it to investigate suspicious logins and then take action. As we keep going, detecting a password spray attack. So we could go in, we suspect an attacker is attempting to password spray attack against our domain to find a weak passwords. We could go into the investigation tool, look at conditions, and then see failed logins based off of the password failure, and we could get a sense for IP addresses interacting with us that way. Account compromise and more, and then auditing admin log events. Again, you have access to these, so you can try these out if you want to. We have about 20 minutes left, so I'm moving relatively quickly through this just in the interest of time. Drive log events, this is one that we haven't touched on. It's actually a pretty big one because we can go in and find files being shared between students. We can filter by type or extension. So if we want to find everything that's a .psd or a .exe, we can include that in our search to try to find those and then take action against them. We can also use that to change sharing settings. The example I always give with this, students created a Google Doc that's been used to bully other students in their class. We could use this to find the doc. We could also use it to revoke sharing to other students or the owner, and then share it directly with an administrative assistant or an assistant principal or guidance counselor so they could follow up. Mentioned the OAuth log activity and student activity here, detecting a student-led insider threat. In this case, we can come in and take a look and see how these files are being changed and take action against them. But before we pivot and talk about how we can automate some of our cyber defense for a quiet and happy 2026, does anybody have any questions about the investigation tool or anything that we've talked about so far? So we'll take a quick moment. Does anybody have any questions before we switch gears and talk about security rules in Google Workspace? Let's see, Kelly's the question. My division's director of technology just stopped by and was looking at the external sharing log and using the investigation logs this morning. He's considering turning off the ability to share files externally unless they are allowed listed. Do any other divisions do that? So if your school does that, you might let Kelly know. I am not familiar with anyone who does that for the entire organization. I know it's pretty common to turn that off for students, but I haven't seen that with staff just yet. Awesome. Don't see any other questions? We'll keep going. Kelly mentioned some schools that do that. Yeah, again, some of the things that help with that, we could also put in some rules to help detect that. So maybe it's a DLP rule that scans emails and drive files looking for sensitive things being shared. Lots of things we can do with that. All right, so we'll get started with some different rules. There's some different rules that we can use inside of the admin console to make our life easier and to automate some of this. So as a Google Workspace administrator, we can set up activity rules in the admin console to send notifications or to take action in response to activity inside of our domain. And we can use activity rules to help us prevent, detect, and remediate security issues more directly, more efficiently, and more timely. How do I create an activity rule? We can see the steps on our screen here. You can reference these moving forward so you can create your own. I'm going to show my screen instead, though, so we can kind of get a feel for this. And so I'm going to drop down over on the left-hand side of the menu and go down to rules. We're going to spend the bulk of our remaining time together taking a look at rules inside of Google Workspace. Give me 1 second. I briefly forgot my password. All right, so I've got my rules here. I can create a new rule. I've got some options here. I've got activity rules, promote less action rules, data protection rules, and trust rules. We're gonna start with activity rules. And so again, activity rules are essentially just building upon what we've already seen inside of the investigation tool. It's going to access the same logs, creating the, interacting with the same data. And so I'm just gonna say test for this. But after that, we can take a look at our data sources, like I mentioned there. So we can see drive log events. So maybe we want to create a rule for mass downloads or mass deletions, user logs. We can take a look at suspicious logins, Gmail messages, looking for specific events like people clicking things on a suspicious link. All these are things that we can automate here. Just in the interest of time, I'm going to show, we'll say drive events. Sorry, let me drop down to drive log events. Maybe. There we go. Now we're back. Sorry about that. Ran into a little bit of a network issue there. And from drive log events, maybe I just want to be alerted to anytime that a file is shared with a specific domain or a specific user. Or I could go into events, and maybe my event in this case is going to be file deletion or file download. So I can get a sense for my files being shared outside my domain or being exported. So I'll say file download. Do I want to be alerted every time a file gets downloaded? No, probably not. But I could come in and I could set a threshold and just say, hey, you know what? If this event happens more than 100 times in an hour, let me know. Or if it happens more than 100 times or 1,000 times in a day, let me know. That way it can alert me. And again, with any of these rules, I can have it email me. I can have it post something to the alert center. Lots of ways that we can automate things using the investigation tool and activity rules. As we come back to our slide deck, I want to highlight a couple other rules that are out there. Oops, sorry about that. You can see the different rule types together. We're going to walk through these security rules inside Google Workspace. We touched on activity rules. The big one out there is going to be DLP rules. If you haven't set these up, you might consider setting up DLP rules. With DLP rules or data loss prevention rules, we can create and apply policies to control the content that our users are sharing in files outside of our organization. And so with DLP, we can control what's being shared, and we can set it up to warn the end user, to alert us, to block the end user, or we can use it to additionally label things as well. And so we talked about using Gemini to automatically label IEP documents. We could also use DLP to put a label up that says confidential or sensitive anytime it finds like a credit card number or a social security number or anything like that inside one of our docs or Gmail messages. With this, I'm just going to highlight a few use cases here. Again, we can use it to audit the usage of sensitive content in our Drive or email, directly warn users not to share files or block them from sharing outright. We can also alert our Google Workspace administrators and investigate incidents from there. Let me highlight this again. The nice thing about DLP rules is that we can use some pre-built templates. So if we don't want to reinvent the wheel, we go to templates, inside of rules, oops, sorry, wrong button, templates. And then from there, I can say PII information sharing. And so maybe I want to apply this PII. If anybody tries to share PII through Drive or chat or Gmail, from there, I can come in and I can decide what I want to do. Do I want to block it? Do I want a custom message to go with it? For me, I would always put in a custom error message, and I would always include at the end an error code of 4831. That was my direct link, and so or my extension for our phone system. That way I knew based on that error code, that was something I created, and so I could go in and follow up for more. Additionally, maybe we tie that into specific notations and documentation behind the scenes as well. Again, Drive, Gmail, chat. And for a lot of these things, like really sensitive emails, really sensitive files, I would recommend setting up to block our staff. But because of their role in the organization, there are some staff who have to interact with sensitive files day in, day out. Those could be finance staff, HR, enrollment staff, anybody like that. And if that's the case, we can create a separate rule for them that just warns them anytime they go to share a document like that instead of blocking them outright. So lots of different ways we can layer in these protections with multiple DLP rules. All right, as we keep going, let's keep discussing rules inside Google Workspace. Our next rule that we're going to talk about, or before we jump forward, we talked activity rules. Some activity rules you might think about: auto-quarantining phishing emails, blocking suspicious file shares, alerting on mass downloads, unusual file deletion. Lots of things we can do with that. I've got an example here that you can try out on your own. One other thing that I'll mention, if you haven't done it yet, Google Workspace also allows schools to go out and create a test domain. If you haven't created a test domain yet, it's a free resource from Google Workspace. You can just Google that. It also might be in the slide deck. I can't promise that, but you can Google that, and Google will give you access to a sandbox environment so you can try out all these commands, all these searches without impacting your production environments, or you can use those demo accounts we created for you as well. All right, so we touched on these different rules, suspicious downloads. The third rule type out there is trust rules for drive sharing. The question at the end of the day, do we know who our students and staff are sharing files with? With trust rules for drive sharing, we can set really granular, focused sharing permissions for drive files. So we could say, all right, because of an IEP or because of a request from a principal, we know that Samuel's not supposed to share his Google Docs with anybody in his class. We want to set it up so he can only share with his guidance counselor, his teacher, and his parents. Well, with trust rules for drive sharing, we can do just that. We can say, all right, we're going to allow sharing from this specific person, and we can allow it to these specific recipients or domains or whatever it is to fit the needs of our organization. The last rule out there is Chrome OS data control rules. These are essentially DLP rules that exist on the OS layer of Chrome devices. And so let me share my screen real fast with this one as well. So let's say we want to prevent students from copying and pasting content from Wikipedia into Gemini. The idea being, hey, they're just going to take this data from Wikipedia and they're going to use it to create a homework assignment or something like that. So I can say, with Chrome OS action rules, I can come in and I'm going to give it a name. I can apply it to specific people in my organization or exclude specific people in my organization if I need to. From there, with these rules, I can prevent how it's being printed, screen capture with recording, screen capture with photos, sharing the file, electronic privacy screens, and more. But I'm going to say anytime I use your copies and pastes. And then from there, my content source in this case will be wikipedia.org, and I can drop down for the destination. For the destination, do I want to prevent them from pasting it into Parallels, Linux, Play apps and files, OneDrive, Google Drive, removable storage, or I could specify here, you know what, I don't want it going into gemini.google.com or gmail.com. And then from there, I've got my available actions I can allow, block, warn, or report. The one thing I'll mention here with any of these, instead of allow, if I'm going to take the time to create these rules, I want to at least get some data back. And so I would at least set it to report. If I set it to allow, it's going to allow that action to take place, and it's not going to alert them, and it's not going to alert me. So I'm not going to get any data from it. I would at least set it to report. All right. I'll hit cancel there. And again, some other use cases, you know, maybe we want to prevent them from copying and pasting out of our student information system or out of our billing or out of anything like that, or we want to put in a string. We don't want them to share the BYOD password or anything like that. Lots of cool things that we can do with these rules. All right. Really, what I think is exciting, though, with this is if we start letting these rules automate our defenses, and using these rules in tandem with each other. Let me see if I have this slide deck or this slide. Sometimes I include it, sometimes I don't. I don't. Okay, so what I really recommend is setting all these protections up together and using them in tandem with each other. So by that I mean, one feature we haven't talked about is context-aware access. We can set context-aware access policies for our users and prevent them from, say, having overseas logins into their account. Or we can be more specific and say, hey, I don't want overseas logins into the admin console. Or taking it a step farther, maybe I want to only allow my long-term subs or my student teachers to access student data when they're on site, and then we'll block access when they're at home or on a less than secure device. These are all things we can do with context-aware access, but let's start layering in these protections together, similar to like what we did with the training of Gemini to identify these. We could say, all right, Gemini has detected an IEP. We're going to put that drive label DLP policy against it. We're going to put a label, and then after that label's there, we're going to create some context-aware access rules that go off of that label as well. So again, use all the resources that are available to you and use them in partnership to really improve security. If you haven't done it yet, set up multi-factor authentication for all staff. Admin accounts have to be done. Google implemented that last week. And then with password policies, enforce password complexity, expiration, and reuse, and then manage access as well with principles of least privilege, and then regularly audit what's going on. All right, let me keep going. A couple other things inside Google Workspace for Education Plus I want to mention. So we touched on context-aware access. You can get a sense for it here. Hey, if somebody's trying to sign in from outside the United States, let's put in a geo block. And so we can add in restrictions based on geolocation, device security, identity, IP address, and more. The use case I always give for this, so we had our chief legal counsel called my office one time and say, hey, we need to block part-time staff from accessing email at home. Thought process being, if they're accessing email from home, that's time that they need to be reimbursed for. And one, we don't have a way to track their time. And two, probably most important, we as a school district are flat broke, so we won't have a way to reimburse them even if we could. And so we need to block that. With context-aware access, we could say, all right, if a part-time staff person from the part-time staff OU tries to connect outside of our in-district IP range, then we'll limit their access and say, yep, you can have access to Drive, or you can have access to Calendar, so you can see what's going on tomorrow, but you can't have access to anything else. Some use cases with context-aware access, again, preventing logins from malicious IP addresses or foreign countries, restricting access to Vault to the appropriate people, enforcing school-issued device usage for certain applications, and more. Sean mentions love context-aware access. We use it to prevent some student access from outside the United States. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it cuts down on compromised accounts for sure. Just had to modify this as staff members traveling on vacation abroad and wanted to access your email. Yep. Yeah, totally understand that as well. Some other use cases and best practices out there for you as well. If you haven't set it up yet and you have Education Plus, you might look at the security sandbox. 90% of cyber attacks begin with a phishing email. The security sandbox finds all incoming message attachments and intercepts those, opens them in a sandbox environment. And if it proves to be malicious, it intercepts the email altogether. So you might check out the security sandbox, a feature of Education Plus as well. We talked about data classification, just as we use Gemini or DLP to label things. You can see an image of what those look like. And again, we can do this, apply these labels individually. We can apply them in bulk via an API, or we can let it be automated through training Gemini or using DLP rules. Lastly, BigQuery. Again, I really encourage you to consider BigQuery if you haven't set it up yet, just because it allows you to retain all this data as long as you need it, and you can create some interactive dashboards and reports based on it. The logs available are shown there. Client-side encryption also available. And so if you have Education Plus and a third-party client-side encryption key provider, you can add that in. But really, this is really aimed at a specific subset of users who interact with sensitive files all the time. Because right now, all data is already encrypted in transit and at rest in Google Workspace. Client-side encryption just adds in that extra layer of protection. All right, so as we wrap up, we've got a couple minutes left. I want to highlight a couple things as we wrap up. One, our slide deck, as well as the handout, have 12 steps to improve cybersecurity. So you can take this with you as you go home. You can walk through this little checklist and walk through that and make sure that you are set up and as secure as you can be. So some of the things out there: multi-factor authentication, auditing, reviewing admin roles, conducting simulated phishing campaigns. This was really interesting for us and telling for us because we had a Google admin fall for every single phishing campaign that we sent out. Really highlighted where we needed to do some training. And then some other ones to consider: setting up alerts, educating your staff, testing context for access, and more. And with any of these, if you want to find more information or get help started, you can leverage Gemini as well for these. All right, what questions do you have? If you have any questions about anything cybersecurity, I'd encourage you to drop them in the chat. While you do that, I'm going to grab a link as well. Give me one moment. Oh, Kate just posted the link for me. Awesome, thank you, Kate. So what I was looking for was going to be our exit survey. So if you would fill out the exit survey, that will give you the chance to get signed up for that gift card that we were talking about. We'd encourage you to check that out. All right, any other questions as we wrap up today? I'll highlight again, if you ever have a question, big or small, email us. We'd love to help however we can. Ian asks, can only certain IT accounts have Google Plus subscriptions? Or can only certain IT accounts have the Google Plus subscription to use those features, or do all accounts need it? So with Education Plus, it's licensed by the entire domain, unfortunately. It'd be nice if you could just buy a couple of individual accounts. But for a lot of those features, it needs Education Plus. It's licensed by student counts and staff counts, but you need to have those features applied to your account to be able to access like the investigation tool. Good question. All right. Again, if you have a question, big or small, feel free to reach out anytime. We would love to help however we can. But with that, again, just as a reminder, check out the exit survey. Complete that when you get the chance. But with that, I'll wrap up our time together. Again, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your calendar to come hang out with us, learn a little bit about AI and cybersecurity. And from all of us here at Frefera, I hope you have a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. And we will see you in 2026 with the January edition of the Google Workspace Admin Briefing. If you haven't checked that out, check out our website to get signed up. It's a free monthly webinar. But thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you down the road.